is here on the very front row, and our children have joined us for service because it's Family Sunday. Can we put our hands together for our children? Children, I want you to know you are not the junior JV church. You are part of the church, and your presence in this room is just as important as every single grown-up in this place. You are a part of what God's doing here at AGF, and I want you to know, children, we love you very, very much. I want to make an announcement here before I invite Wild Bill to come up. Yeehaw! I love him. A few weeks back, Marilyn Vargas, who has been our director of KidZone for the past 8 years, had a meeting with me, and she said, "Pastor, I just think it's time." And I said, "It's time for what?" "Time for me to step away from KidZone." I said, "You're not leaving our church, are you?" She said, No, I would never leave our church. I just think the Lord is telling me it's time for me to pull away from KidZone." And we certainly understand that. Boy, if you know what's going on in her life, it's a lot. And so we understood, we prayed, and she said, "I think Wild Bill and Susan would be excellent candidates to fill this role." And I said, "I think you're right." And I said, "Why don't we have a meeting with them and talk to them?" We heard from their hearts, and I'm happy to announce today that Wild Bill and Miss Susan are taking over as directors of KidZone. It's a natural fit, isn't it? They've been so faithful teaching our young people for many, 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 many years. And so we're excited to see that baton pass. We do want to recognize Marilyn sometime soon. She wasn't able to be here today, but we do want to honor her in service and thank her for her many years of labors with our children. And we'll do that really soon. But Wild Bill and Miss Susan, she's downstairs in the nursery today. Thank you for saying yes. And I know you guys will do a great job leading our KidZone Children's Ministry moving forward. But listen, it is Family Sunday, and we want to give the children just a little taste of what Pastor Mark is going to be preaching today, but we're going to do it through Wild Bill. So Wild Bill, why don't you come and greet the folks and invite the kids on up. Yeehaw!
Yeehaw! I tell you, it's just been an honor to be able to teach the kids. Sue and I came here from Rye, did children's church up there, and we came here in 2010, and I think 2011 I started helping Marilyn Villalpando, and then Marilyn Vargas, and I'll tell you what, I love working with children. That's the ministry that God gave me, and I cannot get away from that ministry, no matter, sometimes I tell God, "Are you sure?" He's like, "That's what I told you to do, that's what you're going to do." But I love it, and right now I get more nervous being up here in front of you all than I ever do with the kids. I just have a blast teaching the children. If I could have all the children come up here and y'all can sit around here. All righty. Yeehaw! Isn't this awesome? All righty. Pastor Mark has been doing some teaching on the Feast of Israel. And the feast that he's going to talk about today is the Feast of Tabernacles. Have you ever ate a tabernacle? Do we eat tabernacles? What's a tabernacle? Have you ever gone camping in a tent? You think so? Well, a tabernacle is sort of like a tent. It's not a permanent structure. It's just a temporary structure. And when the children of Israel left Egypt, when God said, "Okay, you guys, Moses, get the children of Israel out of there," and they went into the desert, how long was they marching through the desert? Does anybody know? Oh, much longer than 100 hours. Try 40 years. 40 years they marched through the desert, wherever God led them. So they would put up temporary structures. It would be like tents or tabernacles. And for 40 years they did that until they came to the Promised Land. And there they were able to build and obtain permanent structures. And when they got there, God gave them a command to remember going through the desert by building tabernacles, and it's called the Feast of Tabernacles. And it's just a temporary subject, temporary building. And during this feast, God says, enjoy it. Eat all the food, because they did this right after harvest time. Right around this time is when they're doing the Feast of Tabernacles, right after harvest. In the United States, we call that Thanksgiving, don't we? In November, we'll celebrate Thanksgiving. Well, they celebrated it then, and they had a good time. And the tabernacle, they can eat turkey. Yep. They could roast it, they could bake it, however, as long as it was cooked, they could eat it. But the tabernacle in the New Testament, in the book of John, chapter 1, it says, when John's talking about Jesus, he says, and the Word became flesh, and the Word dwelt among us. Do you know what that word dwelt means, actually? Tabernacled. Jesus tabernacled with us. He came and he spent some time with us, didn't he, for about 3 years before he was crucified, buried, rose again, and went up to heaven. And so when we think of the tabernacle, the Feast of Tabernacles, we can think of all that Jesus has done for us. Have you asked Jesus to come into your heart? If you ask Jesus to come into your heart, then he's tabernacling there. He's dwelling in your heart. Right. Making a tent. But, what's that? Yeah. But another thing I think about when I think of the Feast of Tabernacles, in the book of Isaiah, it talks about that when Jesus comes and he delivers Israel from all their enemies, because the Bible says that one day all the nations are going to try to come against Israel, and Jesus is going to come with 10,000s of his saints, and at his coming, he's going to wipe out much of the enemies of Israel. And he's going to set up his kingdom in Jerusalem, and once a year, all nations have to come to Jerusalem where they will celebrate the Feast of the Tabernacle. And do you know why? Why would God invite his enemies to come? You got it. He loves them no matter what. The Bible says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. When the Jewish people celebrated the Feast of the Tabernacles, you didn't have to be Jewish to celebrate it. They would invite the Gentiles to come and celebrate with them. And that's exactly what Jesus is doing. Jesus is inviting all of us to come and to celebrate Jesus. No. Jesus invited the enemies to show them how much he loves them. Remember, the Bible says to pray for your enemies? That's what we should do. So the Feast of the Tabernacles points to Jesus and how he wants to dwell with us. He wants to be within our midst because he loves us so much. Have you all accepted Jesus as your Lord and Savior? Yes. All righty.
Thank you, Wild Bill, and thank you, kiddos. You can go have your seats now. Yeah. Don't you love him? He does such an amazing job with the kids, and the kids just love him to pieces.